What was the hardest part about reprogramming yourself? Because you mentioned hitting rock bottom,
Right.
you go to prison, you're just trying to figure out life.
Right.
How do you just start all over again?
Well, the hardest part is, February 13th, when Mr. Gustaffi accidentally lost his life by my recklessness. And the stuff that I did to be a coward that day, that is the roughest thing. As far as getting a routine and commitment, I'm an athlete. I'm used to, my daddy made me, people don't know this, but I laid bricks and drive tractor trailers and bulldozers all day long and then went and played basketball.
I heard you talk about this. I can't believe that you were able to pull that off. I know your dad didn't really see basketball as like a real working job, but like, how the hell did you pull that off?
My dad would say, boy, what the hell you mean you going to work? Just say basketball, he dribbled with two hands. Basketball
You're like,
ain't
no,
job.
Dad, actually, when I'm going up against Shaq and all these other guys, it's a little difficult out there.
So like at 4 o'clock in the morning, we'll get up and we'll feed all the animals, and then he'll go, hey boy, load up that D7 dozer, take it to Newark, drop it off right over there on Broad Street, and then after that, go build them corners. See, anybody can lay brick in the middle of the line, but I was a corner guy, so I had to set up everything, and then I'll go to shoot around, DJ, and I come back from shoot around, I have to go back to work. Sometimes I would drive a tractor trailer to the game with a dozer on it,
my gosh.
so I don't have to do it in the morning.
Did your coaches ever say anything to you?
You know what? This is what happened. My daddy, when we started making more and more money in basketball, they'd come up to my father and say, well, Mr. Williams, we don't quite think we give your son $100 million. We want him, on the top of a scaffold 7 stories up or driving a tractor trailer or a bulldozer because he's real valuable.
Yeah.
My daddy said, what?
That's when it hit him finally?
What?
Yeah.
You mean you want my son to just play basketball for a job?
He didn't realize,
He said, you think that boy needed structure. He need to be around us and working all day long. He got too much energy. He can't do that. And then he said, well, good luck. And he was right. He's right in that. I have to keep going. That's my life. I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:25 and keep it going. My dad knew that. He knew I had a disease at a young age. He knew something wasn't right.
Did you guys talk about it at that point?
No, I never spoke about it with my dad, and my dad really never had to tell me he loved me. It was just the time that we spent in the car riding together.
Right.
All the times we build corners and we build homes, and then we got to a point where we're building, some of the biggest homes in the country, even for your boss right here. And he would just let, Jay, I want you to put this foundation up. I excavated, put the footings in, I'll put the corners, and just be me and him working. But at a young age, look, my dad thought it was a good idea to move himself, who's an African-American man, and a white lady who was my mother, down to the deep South in the early 70s to get away from racism.
Wow.
Into the rural, like Ritter, South Carolina.
Yeah, you're really out there.
Yeah, people haven't even, believe it or not, back then, people really very rarely saw white people, but put a white woman and a black man together, and I come out high yellow with blonde hair, and then people like, So, what I had to do was, I had then I formed a great imagination because nobody would play with me. Right?
So that's when you started hooping by yourself?
Yeah, no, I started playing with trucks and cars. I'd be by myself, talking to myself. So my dad used to go, ooh, boy, that boy flicked it, So, but it was just that I just didn't have nobody to play because I looked weird. And then I went through something, and a family member took advantage of me, and I could never tell my dad that. My dad died because of all the stuff that I put him through. My dad has never been to a doctor in 75 years. And the night that happened, he told me the next morning, he said, Jack, I couldn't get out of bed. And I took it as a mantra, a cliche. I couldn't get out of bed, but he literally couldn't get out of bed because he had a stroke, and I was so worried about what I was doing. So that what happened that night, not 2 people lost their life, and from a reckless behavior that could have been avoided. I could have avoided it, and I'm sorry, and he was never the same. He was never the same, and I miss my dad, and people ask me, why do I continue to talk about this thing? Because it's a big part of my life. One of my missions right now is to release the stigma on addiction.
And you're doing that.
Well, thank you, DJ. If you have cancer, right, unfortunately, you have to get chemo. And if you have an addiction, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, anxiety or depression, if you don't come to Futures Recovery Healthcare, go somewhere, call me. You'll get me on the phone, and then I'll help you get to somewhere else. But get help because I'm a living testament that life is better. Now, is my life gravy? No. You know, I'm through a divorce. You know, I still got to work on my children. And I also have to work on me dealing with my past, right? And when you accidentally take a man's life, everything he has, everything he's going to have, it's something that, you know, I've been doing this for quite some time now. And people saying, well, you're hiding down there and you're not really dealing with your problems. I am dealing with my problems, but it's an ounce every day, putting it in, you know, low in that big.
Yeah, people don't understand.
Right. They don't understand.
You're living it every single day. You have to not only deal with that moment where you took a man's life, but you have to go back to your childhood.
That's
so you're
right.
talking about stuff when you were a kid, the terrible stuff with your sisters when you're at St. John's. Like, you had a ton of stuff, and we were talking off camera, mental health perspective, like, people weren't pouring into your mental health. So what's it like now to take that time to really invest in just kind of working through some stuff from the past?
Well, I'm a warning to some people, and some people I'm an example. But most of the time I'm dealing with people down the futures, you know, I'm both.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the guy in the class. Sometimes most of the time I'm not teaching. I'm no guru in addiction. I'm just a person that's been through it.
You've lived it.
I lived it.
That's your experience.
I'm telling you my story. And I'll sit in there, and most of the time I'm quiet, but most of the time I'm talking. So I'm literally getting therapy while I'm there. You know, we got a lot of players that, if you're an athlete, how can you tell something's wrong up there? You can't tell nobody.
You're not talking about it with other guys?
You're not going to talk about it with
keeping
other
it
guys,
to yourself.
right?
Yeah.
You know, even when we get a sprain, you're not going to go out and say, hey, man, my foot hurts today, because people are going to say, well, which one? I'm going after that one.
Yeah, or money's on the line,
That's
too.
Right, money's on the line. You know, you don't want your endorsements. You don't want people thinking that. You know, we're all under, we got to get married, you know, have a wife and a daughter and, you know, 2.5 kids and, you know, a white picket fence. You know, so nothing up here can ever go wrong. And nothing down here can go wrong. If your knees are bad, we hide that, especially if it's a contract year, right? You know, but if something's wrong up here, that's going to be a problem. And I'm watching all these young people right now who are starting to release the stigma, but they got to really hit rock bottom to see it.
When you think about your time at St. John's, Luke Carnesecca is a really important person in your life. What sticks out the most to you about that man?
His energy, you know, and how much he cares for you. People, I tell them all the time, everybody always says, Chris Muller. Chris Muller is the first word that comes to everybody's name at St. John's. I say, yeah, but Chris might have been a great player. He's a lot better player than I ever would be, but I'm Coach Carnesecca's favorite. So I call Coach Carnesecca at least 3 times a week. You know, he just turned 95 on January 5th. You know, he's still driving this Camaro around town, you know, like this, the Magoo, people blowing the horn. They go, oh, that's Coach Carnesecca, you better move out the way. I think his ability to deal with the parents was the biggest accolade you can give him. Because look, you know, when we went to college, I had 2 children, right, already. I had to adopt my sister's kids. And my first sister was the first woman in New York to ever be diagnosed with the AIDS virus, coming from a man who stabbed her 17 times and beat her over the face with a hammer. And my other sister started using it with her, right? So I had 2 sisters die from AIDS because a guy robbed her named Sergio for $2, right? So I had to adopt their kids. When I'm in school, they're with me, and I had to get up in the morning, bring my son to school, and then my daughter to school. I had to go to school, and then I had to pick them up, and then I had to, you know, go to practice, and I have to do my homework, and then help.
Nobody's helping you at this point?
No,
just
nobody's helping me, just me. You know, and then I feed them and bathe them and wash them and do it, and still try to do what an 18-year-old does playing for the most famous university in the world. And you know what Coach Carnesecca did? He never gave me slack. You know, he said, bring the kids to practice.
He treated you just like everybody else.
He treated me like, that's you, that's yours, and this is how you're going to learn, you're going to deal with it.